everybody. Thank you for watching another exciting edition of Upon Further Review. This week we are sponsored by Troy Allen Chevy Buick GMC, Conlon Tarker, Butler Health Systems, and Penn United Technologies. We are the #1 ranked show at 5 o'clock on Mondays here. This is John Enrietto, the sports editor of Butler Eagle on my left, and this is Derek Pyda, sports writer here on my right. And guys, we had a very interesting opening weekend of the season. Oh, people know who I am.
Oh, people know who you are?
I'm Kilroy,
okay, superstar.
People know who I am. We had a very interesting opening weekend of the high school football season. Some interesting scores, some great performances by some local running backs and other performers. So my first question to you guys is, what were your surprises, observations from the first week, Derek? What was something that jumped out at you from week one?
I'm not surprised.
I'm calling it week one. It's not week 0.
Week one. I'm not surprised that Teddy Ruffner had the game that he had in general. I am surprised that he had it so early. I thought it would take Marsh's offense a little time to get its feet under itself, but 195 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's off and running, literally. Karns City Football, we all kind of agreed that we thought they would get back to the Karns City we know. They did it in a big way last week, 29-point win over Brockway. And Seneca Valley, I covered the game up at McDowell in Erie, and I think it's going to, that defense, we talked about this last week. They lost some big-time performers last year, in Jake Stebbins, Josh McLean, Brennan Hayes, Sage Lay. I think it's going to take a little bit of time for that defense to get to where it wants to be, because they got gashed by McDowell last week. 35-14 loss.
Yeah, but they did kind of right the ship a little bit.
They did.
Got away from
they had a good third quarter. They had a good third quarter.
Yeah. John, what was something that stuck out for you from week one? Week one, people.
Week one, well, it's week 0, but that's okay.
I will fight you.
A couple of, I don't want to fight you. A couple of things that stand out for me. Number one, Derek mentioned Mars West Mifflin. I'm surprised that Mars won the game. I'm very surprised how easily Mars won that game. West Mifflin came in highly touted. I really thought that was going to be a tough opening round game for Mars, and very impressive win for them. And that score shocked me. I would never predicted that score. The other thing on kind of a negative side of the fact is Seneca Valley McDowell, we figured it'd be a tough game, but the fact that Seneca Valley with that offense was held to 14 points, that surprised me. I thought they would get involved with a shootout with McDowell. It just didn't happen. They were held to 14 points and shut out in the first half. That really surprised me.
A couple of things surprised me. First was Montour. I thought they would put up a little bit better effort against Kane. They fell in a big hole early. I guess they righted the ship a little bit. I think they're still going to be okay. Coach Rotman came out and said, look, we weren't sharp. This isn't the way we're going to be playing this year. I think they're going to play better. Another thing, the game I was at, Slippery Rock, what struck me with Slippery Rock is they showed early grit. They could not have started any worse against General McLean. They give up a long touchdown run. They go 3 and out. Then General McLean's star running back nearly breaks another long run for a touchdown. It wasn't for a shoestring tackle. It could have been 14-0. They righted the ship. They got their offense really going in the second half. Over 300 yards of offense in the second half. I think that was a great game for them because it established that if they have any kind of adversity, they're going to be okay. So those two things surprised me. I guess you guys mentioned some of the things that surprised you. I think we're going to be in for another surprising week in the second go around.
I'd like to mention one more thing that's surprising. I'm not surprised that Locke defeated Hampton. I'm surprised they shut them out. I mean, and they got 4 turnovers. Now, I know Hampton didn't have the starting quarterback, but even given that fact, pitching a shutout for Knox defense in the opener, very impressive.
All right, let's move on. We already talked a little bit about Teddy Ruffner, but some interesting other performances this week. Teddy Ruffner had 3 touchdowns. Mitchell Kelsey from Karns City had 3 touchdowns. Nathan Hyatt from Slippery Rock had 3 touchdowns. Montauk's Ethan McDevitt, who was supposed to just be a kicker this year, they threw him in at wide receiver, and he had a big game. He had a pair of field. He also had a pair of field goals, had a touchdown. We have a lot, and Matt Goodwin, he had 1 touchdown, but you figure he's gonna find the end zone a lot this year. So my question to you guys is, who do you think are the prime candidates? We kind of rattled off a few for our scoring trophy, and who do you think is eventually gonna going to take it home, John. There's a lot of great candidates. You
There are.
already kind of rattled off a few of them. We're already off to good starts. And North Catholic and Fruitport haven't even played yet. So they might have a couple guys that that might be in that mix toward the end of the year. So who do you think? Who's your pick to win the Stormy Trophy this year?
I see it as a three-horse race, really. I see it coming down to Teddy Ruffner of Mars, Nathan Hyatt of Slip Rock, and Matt Goodland of Knock. The reason being, I think Karns City, big opening game for Mitchell Kelsey, as you mentioned. But I think Karns City's offense is going to be very diverse. A lot of kids are going to have the ball, and I think that's going to hurt him as far as him staying in the hunt that way. Montour, I don't think where they'll score enough points, I think, to win some games, certainly. I don't think they're going to score at the rate that Mars is going to score, that Knock is going to score, and that Slip Rock is going to score. That's always a big factor in the trophy race battles. How good's your offense? And I think those three teams, Mars, Slip Rock, and Knock, clearly have top guns in Ruffner, Hyde, and Goodland. And I think it'll be between one of those three. I can't begin to pick a winner at this point, but I think it'll be one of those three guys.
How about you, Derek? What say you about the scoring trophy?
Well,
I know it's early, but it's kind of fun to talk about.
I came prepared to pick a winner, and I'm going to pick a winner, Teddy Ruffner. I mean,
Teddy
in that offense, if you show Scott Heinauer and his staff that you can run the football, you're going to be getting the ball 25 times a game. I will say that, as I said, I was surprised that Ruffner had the game he did last week this early in the season. But here he's got 3 touchdowns already, and we have 2 teams that haven't even played yet. So he's already got to jump on them. I will say this, though. I do think a dark horse for this award would be Ricky Hunter at Fruitport, who is a really good kicker, and he's also moving into the top running back spot for Fruitport. So I think he's my dark horse, but I would say Ruffner's got the inside track 1 weekend.
Yeah, I think Ruffner's probably, if you had to put money on it, not that we would ever put money on it, but if you had to pick one guy who you would think was going to win a scoring trophy, it was going to be Teddy Ruffner, because he's going to get plenty of opportunities in that Mars offense, and it's not really surprised what he's doing, because Mars has a history of finding guys like Teddy Ruffner. And remember a couple years ago, right, Derek? He filled in, I believe, for Isaiah Johnson. Was it Isaiah Johnson, or he filled in for somebody and had some pretty good games?
They had several injuries on the offensive side of the ball, and he came in and he rushed for, I think it was over 500 yards. He actually entered this year with 979 varsity yards. So he almost has 1,000 before he even carried the ball last week. So he's a talent. He's got two full years here to see what he can do and climb up those rushing charts.
Derek made a great point. The dark horse here is the guys who can kick and score touchdowns, like McDevitt and Hunter. Because they're going to get extra opportunities to kick extra points and to kick field goals. We've already seen McDevitt's kick 2 field goals, so he's proven that if they're in field goal range, they're going to go to him. Hunter might be the same way at Fruitport. So we had a kicker / everything in Kane Powers win it or share it a couple years ago, mainly because he got those extra points.
But if you look at the history of the scoring trophy, the winner almost every year goes to a member of a team that really rolls up points, that scores a lot of points. And I don't see Fruitport and Montour. Again, I'm not knocking those 2 teams, but I don't see their offensive scoring at the rate that some of these other teams are going to score. That's my point.
Well,
Teddy Ruffner.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch the scoring trophy race this year. We've had several guys off to great starts. Now our second topic is about Karns City. They went up to Brockway and got a big win there. Their ground game piled up 345 yards. They had 10 players carry the ball at least once. That's kind of the Karns City mantra there. That's kind of what they do when they're humming along. So my question to you guys is Karns City back? Is this the Karns City program that we've been used to seeing for the better part of 2 decades after last year's kind of uncharacteristic Karns City team? Derek, what do you think? Do you think Karns City might be rising back up to where they used to be?
We all believed last week in our show last week, we kind of previewed the week 0 game against Brockway, and we all thought that this was going to be, they were going to bounce back. And I know it's only 1 weekend, but I think it's pretty clear. I mean, Brockway's always got a decent program. I couldn't tell you the last time they had a bad team. And for Karns City to go up there and beat them by 29 points, I think it shows that last year, basically, the reason that team was down, the program was down for 1 year, Karns City was it was more mentality than it was physical. And the fact that they went up and took care of business. John, you interviewed some of the players in the preseason, and they all said, we let the town down, we let the school down. I mean, we're back on the ball this year, and I mean, aside from injuries, I just don't see anything keeping Karns City from having a really good year. Obviously, injuries can play a part, but I think it's clear to me, even though it's only one weekend, they're back, and Karns City's going to be a force in D9 this year.
Yeah, John, you talked to a lot of those guys for the preview, which will run in our tab that comes out on Tuesday. They all think to a man expressed how disappointed they were in last year and how determined they were not to let that happen again. So do you feel like this was the first step and that they can continue doing this?
Oh, Karns City's definitely back. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt, because you look at just follow Brockway the rest of this year and watch the kind of season that Brockway has. Brockway's not a bad team at all, and Karns City went up to their place and just belted them. They just belted them. Yeah. So they have a small roster by Karns City standards. They only have 35 kids. By Karns City standards, that's small, so injuries could play a factor if they get a couple key guys hurt. But the fact that their quarterback is a third-year starter, Anthony Kaminsky, his first game, he rushed for 153 yards. Yeah. They gave the ball to a lot of kids, and they have Hunter Rowe, who's a senior back. Besides that, all their backs are sophomores. They all got some carries. They produced last week. Our future is very bright for Karns City. I definitely think they're back, and I expect them to have a big year.
Yeah, nearly 30% of their roster carried the ball last week.
And that's vintage Karns City. That's what they do. That's what they do.
Yeah, I had no doubt that Karns City was going to be back this year, because I saw a number of their games last year, and if there was a snake bit award for a team, they would have won it last year. They were so snake bitten by just unfortunate mistakes at really crucial times. They lost a lot of games that they were leading late. So you had to figure that the coin was going to flip this year, that the things that dogged them last year were going to be eliminated, and the bad luck that happened to them last year wasn't going to happen to them again. I think they're going to, this is indicative of the season they're going to have. I think they're going to have a lot of games where they win. Where they win last week, 43-14. I think they're going to have a lot of weeks where they're going to do that.
They learned a valuable lesson from last year. And again, I go back to what Nathan Waltman said in the preseason to me when I talked to him. He said they lost so many games in the fourth quarter last year because they weren't in condition. They didn't work hard enough in preseason, and they were gassed a lot in the fourth quarter and gave up leads. And now that's not going to happen this year, because these kids are conditioned. They pounded the weight room during the off season. Like I said, that program's back, and you're going to see it this year.
What did they say? The big thing they want to do this year is finish.
Well,
that's right. It's a lot easier to finish when you have a mercy rule clock running in the second half. So,
yes, it is.
So, Karns City will be fun to watch again this year. All right, now it's our over-under segment, a very popular over-under.
Very popular.
I think it's our most popular segment, as the people who are watching now will attest. And we haven't got any questions yet, so if you have any questions, you happen to be watching, shoot us one. We might address it here. But the first over-under of the week is, we already talked about the scoring trophy. I went back and did a little research. 4 times by 5 different guys, 132 points is won. So, John, over-under 132 points winning the scoring trophy this year.
I think we're in for a lot of points this year. I think the opening week of the season, whether it was week 0 or week 1, whatever it was.
It's opening week.
I think it's an indication of just the way this year is going to go. That I'm going to go over, and I think we could have, like I said, there's 3 kids I mentioned earlier, Ruffner, Hyatt, and Goodland. I think they could all go 132. I mean, I think it's going to
Wow, you're saying
I think it's going
to go over.
I think it's a possibility. I think it's going to be over. I think whoever wins this trophy this year is going to have to pass 132 points.
Derek, over under.
I hate to agree with John, you know that, but
well, thank you, Derek. I appreciate that.
I got John winning the scoring trophy. I got Teddy Ruffner winning
the scoring trophy. If I was playing, I would win the scoring trophy.
I wouldn't want to try to tackle him inside the 1 yard line.
I'll tell you what,
exactly.
That's for sure.
Teddy Ruffner, I didn't cover last week's game, but I knew from watching the last 2 years, the kid isn't just, he's got some speed, but he is really physical. So there's going to be a lot of times where he gets the ball at the 7 or 8 yard line. Instead of getting down to the 2 or the 1, he's going to find a way to punch it in. He stays healthy. He's going to get the ball a lot. We know that, and I see him going over 132. And I got him winning the trophy, so I say over.
I'm gonna go against the grain. I'll go under, because I don't know is Mars really going to score that many points this year in that section? Do you think it's going to be like last year when it's going to be more of a slog for them. Maybe they're going to win some 21-10 games.
Last year Renke won it with 132 points. So you're only asking Ruffner to score basically one more point to that.
Yeah. So they're going to win some 21-3 games, and Ruffner's going to score 3 touchdowns. That's how it's going to be. I mean, that's what Morris does. It's no secret who carries the ball, especially when you get near the goal line. It's going to be Ruffner. It's that simple.
Okay, like I said, over under 172 points when it's No, I'm going to have to go over too. I was going to go under, but
we talked you into it. We talked you into it.
You know, Ruffner. I don't know if 3 guys are going to go over 132, but I think Ruffner's definitely going to go over 132. I guess I set that a little too low. Maybe I should put it at 150.
I just think it's going to be a wild season with these guys.
All right, let's rephrase it then. 150 points.
I don't know about that. 150, though. That's a lot of points. No, I'm going to go under. If you go 150, I'm going under.
Under 150? Up. Oh.
Whoa!
All right.
Whoa!
All right, pick
Raise it up
pick
again.
a number for Teddy Ruffner.
Put him on the spot.
I'll say it right now. Okay, let's see.
This is interesting. We'll come back at the end of the year and see how close Derek got to this.
Ruffner.
Turn your DVRs on.
156 points for Teddy.
150. So let's say a little bit over.
It's going to be embarrassing if he doesn't win it, because he might not.
Huh?
Might not.
Hey, it's all. This show's all about predictions. That's what it is.
Yeah,
it is about predictions.
So get off my back.
Well, Teddy, let's hope we don't jinx you here. Let's hope you don't get the Butler Eagle jinx, which is.
Oh my God! While we're on that subject, though, I mean, you cover Slip Rock. What kind of shot do you give Nathan Hyde?
Well, he got 24.
I give him a good shot myself.
Well, he got 24 carries, which is a lot of carries. I can't read your writing, Mr. Producer.
Producer Lauren is trying to signal something. We don't know what it is.
Clown. He's got to wear the clown outfit.
Derek's a clown?
Yeah,
we know he's a clown, but what's the point?
He's got to wear the clown outfit if Ruffner doesn't score 156
I gotta
points.
go buy it again.
Oh,
boy. Buy it. Anyway, now that we got that segue, what was your question about?
I was asking you
about Nathan
Hyde. Slip Rock. Is Nathan Hyde going to stay in the scoring hunt?
Well, he got 24 carries last week, and he also had, I think, three receptions. So he got 27 touches. So he's going to get his touches. But the offense is so diverse. I see Vita Pelosi scoring some touchdowns.
Oh, I do too. But I think Hyde's he's clearly their main back.
Yeah, but I don't know if he's going to be the main back like Teddy Ruffner is. Okay. But they're going to score a lot of points this year.
No one's going to be the main back like Ruffner, with the possible exception of Goodland over at Knock. Yeah, Goodland's going to get a lot.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about Matt Goodland. Yeah. He could.
Well, he's probably got chip on his shoulder now. He's one of the 3 that I picked. I think it's between Ruffner, Hyde, and Goodland.
All right. So, again, Teddy, hope we don't jinx you. All right, kickers are people too, guys.
They are.
And we have a lot of.
We've been kickers over here.
We have a lot of.
I love kickers.
We have a lot of kickers doing some kicking this year already. Like before mentioned, McDevitt had a couple of field goals. Nathan Willison from Slippery Rock had a couple of field goals, and he narrowly missed a 42-yarder. He could have had 3. Justin Tristiani from Knock also converted one, and you mentioned Hunter from Fruitport is a good kicker. He can nail a few. So
I'll mention another one too. Enrietto from Butler's a good kicker. He may get some chances.
So yeah, we have kickers. We have kickers galore. So over under the number of field goals made by our kickers this year. 25.
That's a pretty good over-under number.
Yeah, I started it higher, but I thought I'd bring it down a little bit.
I am going to go slightly under, not because I think chances are we're going to have a couple of bad weather nights that could hurt the kickers, and also bottom line is high school football. Most coaches, if they have an opportunity to get a first down when they get down close enough to where they're in field goal range, they're going to go for it. I think it's going to limit the opportunities that our kickers are going to have. So I'm going under, but only slightly under.
So pick a number.
I'll pick a number. I'll say 22.
22?
Yep.
22 field goals for John. Write that down. You'll have to word clown if it goes over 25. Derek, over under 25 field goals this year by all of our Butler County
I like our
field goal
kickers to go over. I love kickers, by the way.
He just said he didn't.
Yeah, he just said he wanted to be joking.
No, I said they're not people, but I still love them. Yeah, absolutely.
They're non-people.
I like us to go over because we had 2 teams that didn't even play last week. 2 kids that didn't even get a chance to kick yet. Ricky Hunter, we already mentioned for Fruitport, and Will Kunzman, a really good kicker for North Catholic. We have 4 field goals already? Is that what it is?
5.
So, and one of our teams could have a real deep playoff run. That's going to add to the number of chances. So, I think I'm going to say over, and in fact, I'm going to say between 30 and 35 field goals.
Yeah, I'm going to go way over too. I think it's going to be up around the 35 total. Because I can't remember a year where we had this many good kickers. We've always had a couple, like a handful. One school has a good one. They kick maybe 6, 7. But we haven't had this many good kickers across the board. There could be 5, 6 kickers who could kick multiple 7, 8 field goals. That's what I think we're going to go over. I'm going to say we're going to hit about 35 to 37.
I want to clarify something. My pick was based on the regular season. Oh. It wasn't based on the playoffs. If we're including the playoffs, then I'm going over. But if we're counting regular season, I'm going.
Also another thing is a lot of our teams play the vast majority of their games on turf, and I think that's going to help. I mean, it's a lot easier to kick a ball to get that plant foot down when you're playing on turf than on mud and grass.
Yeah, I think there's a story in this, guy. The evolution of kickers in Butler County. That's a good point. Maybe the turf fields have helped because now we have more turf fields.
It's a little
bit easier to kick off of a turf field. Plus, I think the soccer, the growth of soccer has helped too because some of these guys are soccer players who kick.
So. I still think it's high school football, and I think we'll have some weeks where we'll have like no field goals. It'll just happen that way. It's just high school football.
It'll be fun to watch.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to our predictions. This is also a fun thing we do. We always have good discussions, good arguments about the predictions. First thing though, how did Scoop do? Scoop had a tough week.
Tough week. 5-4.
5-4. He only lost 14 all of last year. He already has four losses.
Yeah, although he did early last year have a 3-loss week, so he still has a chance to rebound.
This is his worst week in more than a year.
Oh yeah,
Scoop has
to bounce back.
Scoop has some stains on his beak. A little bit of humble pie, humble pie droppings coming out.
All right, let's go to the first matchup. John, Baldwin at Butler. Butler hung with North Hills for a better part of a half.
They hung with them for like a 3/4.
For 3/4. So
that game was 19-14, and Butler had the ball in North Hills territory with 3 minutes left in the third quarter. They fought them hard. Final score was 46-21, but North Hills scored twice on Butler's second team. It was late in the fourth quarter. Kind of a bit of a misleading score. I was very pleasantly surprised by the effort that Butler gave. They got some athletes, especially on offense.
But do they have what do you think their chances are at home against Baldwin, however?
I think they're going to struggle, not because of Butler, but because of the quality of the opponent. This is Baldwin's year. I mean, it could be. I mean, they've got a number of they probably have 6 or 7 players who are going to go D1, including their quarterback is being recruited. They have a lineman, Dorian Ford, who's being recruited. He's already been offered by Pitt, Penn State, Nebraska. I mean, it's, schools like that.
He's only a junior.
Yeah, and he's only a junior. The kid is 6'5", 280 pounds. He's just a stud. He's just a horse. And they've got outstanding skilled people. Ford's not their only lineman. So Baldwin, they played a team last week for Avalon out of Maryland, and they lost 26-7. But according to their coach, that was a prep school that had some fifth-year seniors on their teams, and they're really good.
So you're picking Butler then?
I'm picking Butler. Yeah. I guess because of the long-winded there. I'm going with Baldwin. I'll go with the score. Baldwin 35 and Butler 20.
Derek, what do you give the Golden Tornadoes chances this week against Baldwin? Do you think they're going to hang in there? Like John seems to think they're going to hang in there.
I do think they're going to hang in, but just to kind of elaborate on what John was talking about there, their quarterback Mason Stahl, he threw for 1,500 yards last year, 16 touchdowns, but he's also a threat to run. So, I mean, anytime you add that component to a quarterback, that's going to add so much more pressure to that defense. The Ford kid, as John said, he's only a junior. He's already getting recruited by D1 colleges. I just think this is a tough matchup for Butler. If they can, it's a program that's trying to find itself, build things, and if they can find a way to stay in it for a half, 3/4 in this one, I think that's going to be another step forward, as they did last week against North Hills. But I like Baldwin to win 24-13. But I think Butler will keep it close again.
Yeah, I think Butler's somewhat turned a little bit of a corner. They showed against North Hills that hey, we're not going to back. We're going to be competitive. We're a little bit, we're better than we were last year. We even though our roster is as large, that we have good quality players. I think they're going to stick with Baldwin for a little bit, but I think Baldwin and what's going to happen to Butler is what happened last week to Butler against North Hills.
Numbers catch up to him. The numbers catch up to him.
And you mentioned some of the guys that Baldwin has. It's going to be hard to match up with that for 4 quarters. You can maybe do it for 1 or 2, but you can't do it for 4. So I'd see Baldwin winning. I'm going to say 42 to 14. Go with Baldwin.
All right.
All right, next matchup, Central Catholic at Seneca Valley. Derek, we talked about Seneca a little earlier. They really need a bounce back week. Did they get it?
Well, in a word, no. But
all right, Derek, John.
In a word, no.
In a word, no.
We already talked a little bit about Seneca Valley's defense and how much they struggled last week against McDowell. Their offense, now they ran for 87 yards, but 42 of those 87 yards came on the very last drive of the game when the outcome was already decided. Backup quarterback Caden Smithco came in and ran for 42 yards on 2 attempts. So other than that, and we're talking the first 46 and a half minutes of the game, Seneca Valley ran for 45 yards. We know Lawson, their quarterback, is mobile, but they have to find a ground game to supplement even what he can do. And that comes down, they got to get Matt Stanger going. Last week, Matt Stanger had 8 carries for 8 yards. Had a touchdown, but 8 for 8 is not going to cut it. Their passing game did impress me. They've got some kids, fast kids that can catch the ball. Makai Gay caught 3 balls, but I believe all 3 of them were in traffic. So they got to find a way to rate that defense and find a ground game to supplement that passing attack. Can be really good. I don't think it happens this week. Central Catholic's really good. Coaches can say what they want about this year. I guarantee you there's Central Catholic kids that are on this year's team that were part of that playoff game last year that Seneca Valley came back and won down in Fox Chapel 15-14. Yeah. They're gonna get a little bit of revenge here. I like Central to win 27-17.
That was part of the revenge tour there that Seneca went on last year.
Yep.
John, do you think Seneca starts 0-2?
I do, only because of the quality of the opponent, Central. I do look for Seneca to be much improved this week. Very competitive game I'm seeing down there. But I'm picking Central Catholic 27-21. I think Seneca's offense will improve. Frankly, Seneca's defense concerned me the way McDowell kind of let them up last week, and Central Catholic's going to bring the athletes. Yeah. So that's my concern. I don't know if Seneca can hold them down enough to beat them.
Yeah, the Raiders are gonna be looking at an 0-2 hole. I'm afraid. I do, like you said, John. I do think they're gonna play a little bit better, but man, Central has got 2 things going for them. One is, like Derek said, there's guys on that team that remember that, and it stings them, and they're gonna want to come back and get a little bit of a revenge. And 2, I'm really concerned about Seneca's defense. I don't know if 1 week is enough time to correct some of the mistakes and some of the problems that they had against McDowell. So I see Central winning this one. I'm going to go with the same score, 35-14. I think Seneca falls the same score back-to-back weeks. All right, let's move on to Blackhawk at Knock. The Knights with a huge defensive effort last week against Hampton, and good for Knock to start 1-0.
Absolutely.
After we mentioned their slow starts, Derek, the 1-0 Knock Knights play Blackhawk. What's your thoughts on that one?
Well, I covered this game last year. It was down at Blackhawk, and they took it to Knock. They beat them 48-12. Now, Blackhawk made the Whitwell semifinals last year. They bring back a lot of key guys, but they lost their quarterback and running back from last year, including a running back named Kenny Gully, who I was really impressed with in the game against Knock. So they do have some key skill position players to replace, and I think Knock gets revenge here. I like Knock. I like the way they opened the season last week, and I think they've already avoided the slow start by getting off to with a win last week, but I like them to start the season 2-0. I think Blackhawk lost just a little too much of talent off last year's team, and Knock's gotten better. So for me, it adds up to a 30-20 Knock win.
Yeah, I'm on the Knock bandwagon. I think they're going to roll. I think they're going to roll in this one. I'm going to predict another shutout. They're going to get another shutout.
Whoa.
31-0.
Oh, they're not going to shut out this team. They're not going to shut out.
Yes, they are.
No, they're not going to. All right, we'll watch and see. But You know, Blackhawk did lose a lot of kids. They went 10-2 last year. That was their best record in a decade. But as Derek alluded to, they did lose a lot of those guys. But they do bring back, Blackhawk does, they bring back 2 running backs who ran for over 600 yards last year in backup roles. So they have some talent on offense still. I don't know how good their line is going to be. But not for real. They're not going to lose at home. They're not going to, they will get some revenge for that blowout loss at Blackhawk last year. I'm going to go with Mock as well. I'm going to say Mock wins this game 34-21.
That grass is going to be up to the shin. It's going to slow Blackhawk down. That's Knox grew up in that grass.
Hey, that's the advantage of playing on grass. Yeah. That's the advantage of playing on grass.
I'm telling you, Knox defense, they're going to throw up a lot of goose eggs this year, I have a feeling.
I also want to mention Blackhawk has a 6'4" wide receiver. He caught five passes last year. 4 of them were for touchdowns. And again, it's kind of in a backup role, but this kid's going to be one of their prime players. So they've got some athletes on offense, Blackhawk does.
All right, let's move on to Mars at Moon. I'm not going to make the obvious pun. Derek, you cover Mars. What are you thinking about this one?
I mean, I'm just drunk on Teddy right now. I love the way Teddy Ruffler opened the season. I thought he'd have a good season. I didn't think he'd open up the season with almost a 200-yard game, 3 touchdowns. The game's at Moon. Moon always has athletes. You never have to worry about Moon playing a football game without athletes. But Mars showed me something last week. They showed me that they're ahead of where I thought they'd be at the start of the season. I like this to be a closer game than Mars had last week against West Mifflin, though. I like it 17-14 Planets. But Ruffner with another big game, 150 yards, couple touchdowns, 17-14 Mars.
John?
I'm sold on Mars, simple as that. Planets are going to win this game on the road. And I agree, Ruff will have another good game. I see Mars winning this game. I'm going to go with Planets 21-7.
I think it's going to be a little bit more low scoring. I think both these defenses are going to take things up a little bit. So I still think Mars is going to win. I'm going to go with 17-14 Mars on the road at Moon.
We have the same score.
Did we really? That's right, we do. We have the same score. All right.
That's right.
Let's move on. That was a score I had in my head before. Let's go to Fruitport at Derry. Fruitport finally gets to play a game.
Yep.
That counts anyway. In week 1, I guess. We have to call it week 1 for them. John, what do you think about Fruitport at Derry?
Well, you know that Derry knocked off Fruitport in last year's opener for 19-13 as the game. If you recall, Fruitport had a 13-0 lead and lost it late. And that Derry team went on to go 11-2. They made the Whitfield title game, but they lost a lot of guys. I mean, that Derry team lost a lot. Their running back, Justin Flack, 1,300-yard rusher, he's gone. Most of that defense, which was outstanding for Derry last year, most of those kids are gone. I see Fruitport getting some revenge. Again, revenge win for on the road. I say the Jackets win this game. It's going to be close, but 100 field goal might be a factor. 17-10.
This is a little tough one to predict, isn't it, Derek? Because Derry lost a lot, and Fruitport did too. Fruitport lost some key guys.
They got Garrett Schaffhauser moving into a starting quarterback role. He's been a star on defense the last couple of years, but now he's going to be Fruitport's quarterback. And this is his first true test. They had, obviously, summer practice, scrimmage, but this is his first game. One guy that I think could play a key role for Derry is Paul Kuntz. He was their quarterback last year. He's back. And I think with them graduating such a good running back from last year, Derry made the Whitfield championship game last year. They don't have the same running game, so I think more responsibility is going to put on this quarterback. I think it's Paul Kuntz. He had a good year last year. I think this year he might end up being the leader as far as, the guy that's expected to make the big plays as opposed to that running game. But man, I hate to agree with John here, but in fact, I'll call it. Ricky Hunter wins this game with a last-second field goal. 16-14 Fruitport. The game's at Derry, which obviously plays with the Trojans' favor, but I like Fruitport they've waited almost all year to avoid that 0-3 start that they had last year, and it starts this week, Friday.
You know what? Granted, Paul Kuntz was only a sophomore last year at quarterback, but he only completed 35 of 105 passes.
Well, their onus was on the run last
year. It was.
Yeah.
Well, in a game like this where there's so many unknowns, I go with the home team and which team has the more experienced quarterback. In both columns goes to Derry. So I'm going to pick Derry. It's going to be another tight game like last year. It's going to come down to the wire like both of you predicted, but I think Fruitport's going to lose 20-13.
Okay. Whatever.
So, okay,
Whatever.
All right, another team getting their first action of the year, North Catholic. They host Burroughs. John, what do you think about this one?
Well, honestly, I don't know much about Burroughs. It's one of the teams Derek covers, North Catholic, so I don't know a whole lot about Burroughs, but I do know a lot about North Catholic, and they got a lot of kids back. I expect them to be a powerhouse team, and I think they open the year with a huge win. I'm saying North Catholic rolls in this game 41-14.
Derek, you know a lot about North Catholic. You cover them. Have you any thoughts on this?
Nope. No, you can. Honestly, the thing Zach Rocco's back, and he's a known commodity. We know what North Catholic's going to get out of him. Although he is going to play more defense this year, that should be exciting. The thing I'm interested with North Catholic is they did lose Nakai Hill-Green, not the graduation. He's only a senior this year. He actually transferred to a private school in Maryland. How do they replace that, especially on defense? The guy was a monster at linebacker. I don't think Burroughs is going to be much of a test. That program's been down for a few years. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think North Catholic's going to get a lead, sustain it, and win. Well, I guess 28-7 is a little bit of a blowout, but maybe a late touchdown by North Catholic, 28-7. But Zach Rocco, anytime you have that kid at quarterback, you've got a fighting chance because, I mean, the kid could put up numbers, big numbers, over 50 touchdowns the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a blowout. I agree with John. It's going to be a blowout.
See, you guys are finally agreeing with me. You guys are finally coming around on this.
Well, he kind of disagreed with you a few times, but I agree with you when you're right. That's the difference.
Okay.
No, I don't agree with you when you're
I
wrong.
got you. All right.
So, and you're right this time. North Catholic's going to have way too much firepower for Burrow to handle. North Catholic's going to roll. I'm going to say 49-21.
Next.
All right. All right, Punxsutawney at Karns City. On paper, this looks like a lopsided affair. John, do you think it's going to be a lopsided affair?
It's going to look the way on the field, too. It's going to be, yes, this is a lopsided affair. I know Clarion's got this juggernaut with their three-school consolidation going on up there in terms of football. And they blew away Punxsutawney 70-6 last week. But Karns City blew away a pretty talented Brockway team. We mentioned that earlier on the show here. This game is going to be no surprise. Karns City is going to roll in this game. I'm going to say 51-6. Karns City.
50 burger.
It's going to be a blowout.
He predicts a 50 burger. Derek, are you going that high with Karns City's points?
I'm on the Karns City bandwagon, and I'm not saying they're going to go undefeated this year, but they're not going to lose to Punxsutawney.
No.
Punxsutawney's, they've been down for a while. They can beat St. Mary's, or at least they have the last couple of years. That's one of the few teams they can compete with. They're not going to. Last year, Karns City was down, right? They still beat Punxsutawney by 20 points.
I'm going to give you one note on this Punxsutawney-Karns City matchup. The last 7 times these two teams have played each other, Karns City scored at least 42 points.
I was just going to say
7 games in a row.
Well, that's string.
7 games in a row.
I'm breaking that string.
You stole my thunder.
Yeah. Karns City wins 38-10, so.
Yeah, there's
Take Punxsutawney in the points.
Okay.
there's only a few things you can count on in high school football around here. One of them is Karns City piles up a lot of points against Punxsutawney.
Mm-hmm.
That's just what happens. They just do it. I was at a game a few years ago. They put up 60 on Punxsutawney. I don't think they're going to put up 60, but I'm also going 50 points. I think Karns City's going to put up. I think it's going to be 50. I'm going to say 55-20. Karns City's going to win. Yeah, I just don't see Punxsutawney being able to slow down Karns City's offense at all. There's just too many weapons.
It's going to be a long watch score for.
It's going to be a very long.
You're covering that, right? Don't you have that?
I don't.
That's right. You don't have it. Okay.
I have Knock. I get to see Knock shut out. Get another shutout.
Nathan has Karns City.
I get to see Knock with the shutout.
Okay.
Montour, Clarion. You just mentioned Clarion's massive consolidation and what they did at Punxsutawney. Montour's coming off of a bad loss at Kane. So again, this on paper looks lopsided. But John, what do you think? Do you think this is going to be a lopsided
The
game?
timing for this game is just bad for Montour. They're coming off a very disappointing loss against Kane, as you mentioned earlier. And this Clarion team, not great. It was Punxsutawney, and I know the Chucks have been struggling, but Clarion rolled up 608 yards of offense in that game, and they only gave up 124. Punxsutawney only managed 4 first downs against that Clarion defense. That does not bode well for Montour. I got to go with the Bobcats here. I'm going to say hold them down a little bit. I'm going to say 35-12 on Clarion.
Yeah, Montour played Clarion pretty tough both games last year. They lost the regular season game, but that was closer than the score indicated. They beat them in the playoffs.
Right.
Do you think that has any factor on Clarion this year, or is it not going to really matter as much because of
it could have some of an effect, but there's CL players are now on this team too, and they weren't part of that matchup last year. But this consolidation, Clarion's had a co-op with North Clarion for years. I don't think North Clarion's ever had their own football team. Now you're throwing CL kids into the mix, including Austin Newcomb, who set the District 9 single-season rushing record last year, 2,627 yards. This is not good for the rest of District 9, and this week it's not good for Montour. I like Clarion winning this game going away 40-16.
Yeah, Montour's not going to win this game, but what they should be looking for is taking a step forward from that loss to Kane. Are they going to be more fundamentally sound? Are they going to be able to maybe move the ball a little bit? Are they going to be able to read their keys and be where they need to be on defense? All the things that they didn't do last week. I think they will. I think they'll play better, but it's not going to show up on the scoreboard because Clarion's it's going to be too powerful. I see Clarion winning this game 42-19, but I think Montour will take a little bit of a step forward. I think they'll play better, even though the result is going to be pretty much the same as last week.
That Austin Newcomb, by the way, 187 yards and 4 touchdowns last week.
How many carries? Like 5?
Just 11 carries.
11? That many?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be one of those 5 touches, 4 touchdowns,
Yeah,
100 yard games.
No. Wasn't that bad.
Wasn't that bad? Right.
Anyway.
Moving on, we got Slippery Rock at Reynolds. We talked about Slippery Rock a little earlier. Slippery Rock with the big win over McLean. Derek, do you think the Rockets keep on rolling?
Yeah. Last year, Slippery Rock beat Reynolds 24-6. This year, Reynolds gets the extra point. They lose 24-7. Slippery Rock.
John, Reynolds played well the first week too. So,
what was the Reynolds result last week? I didn't see the
they
result.
won. I think they put up 40 points.
Oh, who did play?
In their win. I can't remember who they played, but I know they won pretty handily.
I still like Slippery Rock. It's a strong year for them as well. I'm going to go with Rockets. I think on the road this will be a tight game. Might be one of the better games of the week actually. I'm going to say Slippery Rock wins this game 28-21.
I think Slippery Rock found out a lot about themselves last week, coming back from that little bit of adversity. Their offense got better as the game went on. Their defense got better as the game went on. I think they're going to go up there, and I think they're going to roll over a Reynolds team that it's hard to gauge how really good anybody is at this point.
Sure.
Only one game in the back pocket. You don't know who Reynolds. What did they face? I haven't talked to Coach Burroughs yet. I don't know too much about Reynolds, but I know enough about Slippery Rock to know that I think they can go up there and handle business. I think they win 31-12. Summit travels to Apollo Ridge Friday night. Johnny already made your prediction. Make it again.
I did. I think Summit Academy loses this game at Apollo Ridge 34-12. As I mentioned earlier, I'm not sure if it took her or not, but I think Summit Academy, just by the very nature of their program, it's going to take them three or four games to really figure out things, get their unit to where they want it to be, and Apollo Ridge will take advantage of this early season matchup, 34-12.
Derek, I don't know how far we got into your breakdown of this game, but what do you think about Summit at Apollo Ridge?
I think they'll find a way to keep it close for the most part. I think Apollo Ridge scores late to kind of pull away 27-14 Vikings. This is a road game Friday night for Summit as opposed to a home Saturday afternoon game. So I like the Vikings in this one by 13, 27-14.
I think Summit's going to be graded this year on a curve. It's not going to be about wins and losses. It's going to be how much better they're going to get. They got to a really bad start against Western Beaver. They were down, I think, 36-0 at the half, 48-0 in the third quarter. They put a couple touchdowns on the board in the fourth to get a little bit of momentum going into this week. I think they're going to get better and better each week. But again, this week it's going to be a tough matchup, a tough road game for them. I think they lose. I think they do play a little bit better, but I think they still go down. I think it's going to be 36-16, Apollo Ridge. Now we have a Saturday game. Union AC Valley at Sheffield. Union AC Valley lost 30-8 last week. They do have some athletes. They do have some young guys who are contributing. Some guys who are contributing across the board. Some guys that have been contributing for the last couple of years. Derek, you know a little bit more about Union AC Valley than most of the people here at this table. What do you think is going to happen this week?
Well, they've got some athletes, but I got to be honest with you. My pick is more based on what Sheffield has or doesn't have. They lost, I think it was 40-0 to Smethport last week. Sheffield's a program that's been struggling mightily for several years. So I know it's a home game for Sheffield. It's a Saturday afternoon game, but I like Union AC to go up there and take care of business, 26-6.
Yeah, I like Union AC Valley in this game too. I like their core skill guys. I think they have a good bounce back week against Sheffield. And I think again it's because Sheffield's been struggling with something. I think they're chomping at the bit to play them. I think they roll again. I think Union AC Valley wins. I'm going to say 33-15. John?
Yeah, I think the Falcon Knights loss last week was more a tribute to how good college sport is rather than how bad Union East Valley may be. I don't think the Falcon Knights have a bad team at all. In fact, I expect them to do better than their 4-6 season of a year ago. I agree with you guys. I think they bounce back, take advantage of a bad Sheffield team. Falcon Knights win this game. I'm going to say 36-6.
36-6. There we go. There's our picks for the week. We have a dignitary watching, Dave Perlowski, former top.
Another dignitary.
He's watching right now.
He might be a loyal fan. He was watching last week.
He says hi, gang, to everybody. Okay. He's not too big for it. He hasn't got too big for us.
Not yet.
Starring role on Mindhunter. So let's move on to a segment we do every week. It's called "And What About." We talk about other sports other than football. And this week, the question I want to ask is: fall sports get underway here into this week, and we have a lot of good teams in other sports. And my question to you guys is: will we have a state champion out of those other sports? Will a team, soccer, volleyball, any other team go on and win a state title for us? Derek, do you think we have a team that can come home with the state championship hardware?
Yes, we do have teams that can come home. But the question
this is pet peeve.
I'll say, between Mars soccer, boys and girls, Seneca soccer, boys and girls, Karns City girls made a run to the state semifinals a few years ago with that Megan McCartney team. Volleyball with Fruitport Knock. I think, if I have to call it right now, I say we get a team, at least one team, to a state championship game, but I don't think we bring it home. I mean, a lot of times, you look at how good our soccer programs have been over the years. How many state champions in soccer we have? One. Mars girls won in 2011. Other teams have gotten there. They found a way to. The other teams have found a way to come away with a win. But I say we get somebody there, at least one, volleyball, soccer. But win, it's real tough when you get to the state championship.
Okay, John, will we have a state championship?
Between not volleyball and Mars boys and girls soccer, one of those teams will get it done. I say yes, we have state championship.
If you had to pick one, what would it be? Which one?
The most likely, probably not volleyball.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have two.
Wow.
I think we're gonna have two state champions, maybe three. I can see maybe one of the Mars soccer teams going. They're very good. I think Fruitport and Knock are gonna do what they did in 2017 in volleyball. They're gonna win a state championship.
Boy, I don't know. You maybe underestimate what it takes to go all the way through and win it. And that's like that. Derek, you hit the nail on the head. It's one thing to even get to the finals, but it's another thing to take it home. It's really hard to do.
They did it 2 years ago. And
they did.
And they both have teams capable of recreating that magic that they had that year. I really believe that. Freeport's loaded. They're so deep. Knock has three, probably the best trio in the state. In Skylar Burkett, Hannah Rowe, and Kennedy Christie. It'd be hard to find three better volleyball players than any team in the state.
And if you don't believe that, read my Kilroy article in today's Butler Eagle.
So, and Knock also has some other players like Quinn Hughes, Allie Albert, and some other girls that are coming up that are going to be surprised a lot of people this year. So I think they're set up nicely for a state title run. I think Fruitport every year has a chance to do it with as deep as their team is. Mars soccer, boys and girls, have built tremendous programs over the years. I could see them, one of them, if not getting there, maybe bringing home a state championship.
I do want to mention that not this isn't team, but we also have a
Yes,
returning
individual. Good point.
state golf champion, Maddie Smithco from
We do.
Buick Catholic.
And Laura Greb.
Laura
from
Greb,
Rock,
yeah.
tennis player. She has a.
But
She has
we
a
are
shot.
talking team there. We are talking team.
Yeah, I mentioned
Yeah,
teams,
right.
but we can talk. I mean, this isn't
Hey, John,
etched in stone.
You got a problem with what I'm saying? It's
Not
time
no
for
problem.
this.
Stone.
No
It's time
problem
for
with it.
this.
I'm just saying, it says team here.
It's
Oh.
not etched in stone. You can talk.
Oh,
about
actually, you know what? I take it back. It doesn't even say team here.
Ha.
It says, will the Butler County area have a state champion in any fall sport?
There you
So
go.
there you
See?
go. So
You didn't even
individually,
read it.
right.
So individually, I think Derek raises a good point. Individually, I'm going to take this back. I say we have multiple, with one of them being a team and one of those individuals will win a state title. There you go.
Thank you.
It's always fun when we have a lot of good team and individual performances at the end of the year. It's great to look back to on it at the end of the year and just watch what, like John said, what they have to do to get through, to get to us, just to get there, let alone win it. I think winning a state championship is the ultimate
It's the pinnacle.
accomplishment any athlete can hope for.
Well, the thing is, as great as some of our teams are, and some of our teams are great teams, at some point they're going to run into
Yeah,
other teams
other
from
great teams.
other areas that are also great teams. That's what I'm saying. So,
All right.
tough to do.
Well, thank you for joining us. I know we were a little interrupted there, but thanks for hanging in there with us. And until next week, thanks for watching.